into this edition of Community Insiders. We take you on top of the mountain to the Grundy County Historical Society Heritage Center.
That they have an amazing history. It goes back to the beginning of the country, or it goes back before that. The people that were here, we haven't even mentioned the Highlander School that was one of the premier starting places for civil rights training. The things that have happened up here are remarkable. And just like me, a lot of people aren't aware of them until you get into this, and it really makes you proud to be from here when you do.
Community Insider is brought to you by
Dr. Pepper. Good for life, good for the community.
Community TVTN is brought to you by Security Federal Savings Bank, proudly serving the community we call home.
High-quality leads with prolific internet marketing and invigorating web design services that will energize your business. We are SiriusSEM. Call today or visit us at SiriusSEM.com.
Welcome to another edition of Community Insider. Join us as we travel Middle Tennessee, uncovering history and experiencing the adventure of unique stories and events coming to you inside your community.
This is Cindy Killian again, and this mural is one of the first things you see when you come into the Heritage Center. And you'll see this is a big old coal-burning locomotive that used to come through Tracy City into Cowan and other cities around here. You can get an idea of size from the engineer here and compare to the rest of the train. You may notice around Tracy City are some wooden signs that say, "Welcome to the area that was the beginning of the New South." After the Civil War, coal and things could not be shipped north because the tracks were torn up. Coal had been discovered in Grundy County. People had invested in it and mines were built. And so there was a boom time in the 1880s, 1890s or so. When coal was dug, it was turned into coke, which could be used to make steel. And we have still the coke ovens around here, which are very interesting to see. And dirty, sort of powdery Grundy County coal would be partially burned in the coke oven, turn it into coke, which is sort of like lava rock, but it's clean burning and burns hotter, and that would actually be shipped to Birmingham to make steel. So that was the beginning of changing from just agriculture, raising animals, to actually getting in on the industrial boom that was starting at that time in the country. And the Grundy County coal was a big part of that, going to Alabama. This is our favorite exhibit I think we have here. Everyone wants to come see the wolf. And this fellow was found here, 15, 20 years ago. He's a Grundy County native from somewhere, but he was found as a newborn pup, and his mom had left him. So the lady that found him was part Cherokee, so she was partial to wolves. So she picked him up and raised him as a pet. And as you see him here, he's 14 to 16 years old. And she kept him all that time as just basically a lapdog. He would sit on the porch with her and she'd pet him, and she'd drive around town in her car or truck, and people would come up and pet him through the windows. And he got to where, as a lot of wild animals do, as he got older, he went back more to the wild ways. And he started protecting her against her family, wow, which included children. So she had to have him put down with that. But
so they found this puppy.
Just up here in Tracy
Does
City.
that mean that there is wolves still?
You know, I can't say for certain, I don't know that, but there are a lot of animals that look an awful lot like this. I know there are a lot of hybrids, and this though is probably a purebred. But you know, around here they could be coming through, they could be in the Savage Gulch, anywhere. But yeah, he was found here.
Now, I know you've got some exhibits about
Yes,
Indians, speaking of the Indians. You feature a lot of that because you find artifacts, I guess, and stuff that y'all feature.
We do. I know my grandfather in Beersheba, he would plow up just for the garden and get irritated because there's so many arrowheads in the ground. It was hard to plow for him. The Chickamauga were here most recently. Like I said, the time of the Revolution. Before that, it was Cherokee and Creek. Before that, it would have been others. They've probably been here for thousands of years. These are the southeastern woodland Indians. And so they lived in this area in Beersheba. There's an area called Stone Door where there's a crack in the rock and a passage all the way from the top of the mountain to the floor without having to rappel or climb down. And they use that as a way to get from the valley, as a shortcut from the valley to the top of the mountain. So this area, the dirt wasn't too good, and it still isn't. So it was mostly a shared hunting area with the Cherokee and the Creeks, and also a ceremonial area. You find a good number of Indian mounds still around. There's a big one down the Tartan Valley. And so they were definitely here. The Trail of Tears, well, the Indians, just as I said, they just passed through. They didn't live here. The Europeans didn't get in here. They weren't supposed to be here. This was all Cherokee land. And the Europeans were not supposed to be here before 1804, although some of them were. So this land was given away just through treaties and things, like most of the land. The Trail of Tears, most of the Indians here by then had come up from Chattanooga and lived on the mountain where they weren't bothered and intermarried with the Europeans. So the Grundy County itself has one of the highest ratios of intermarriage, Indian and white, in the country. Wow. Only second to Oklahoma. Wow. Because they took some, but not all the Indians on the Trail of Tears from here. They just didn't bother with them. They didn't have anything to take that they wanted so much. And the ones that stayed just intermarried, and they're still here because people tend to stay here once they're here. So we have quite a few things, the arrowheads. We still have some of the full-blooded and some that were in the Chickamauga tribe that make weapons and, clothes and things and bring here to show people what the life was like. Jack Bagginstosh did this model also, and it's from the model of the whole plateau, the flat area of the plateau, and it goes from Sewanee to Tracy City. And it shows the way the mines were interconnected by the trains and the tunnels they had to go through and the trestles they had built. It's really something. And at one time when it was first built, the trains worked and you could play with it, but now it's hard to maintain. If one little thing gets off, it doesn't work. But we've got a lot of pictures from the old mines. We've got pictures from the 70s and 80s, 1900, when people were still working there. People come in and find their father or grandfather. And so this is really Tracy City. This is what made it up.
And this runs back this way.
Tracy City. Okay. One end is Tracy City, I think, or what is this? I'll tell you about it. This is Palmer. Palmer, and behind you is Tracy City, and then the far corner will be Sewanee. And then some of these trains would go to Cowan and different places. There were trains from Nashville, and it was quite a busy town at the time. Now, earlier we were talking about the trains and the coal that went around here and about the big trains that carried the coal to Birmingham. This is what's called a dinky train. There were two of these engines, and it's about half the size of one of the big engines. It was a very unusual construction, we're finding out, but these were used to carry little wooden carts and pull the coal from smaller mines, and then it would be handled and taken to the bigger mines. It's been donated, one of these, to our park that we're building across the street from the Heritage Center. And that's on Railroad Avenue, and it will be a railroad park. And we'll hopefully have one of these engines you can see, and there will be different things around for play and everything. And it's the trail walks right past it now. So hopefully we'll have one of these trains. We're working on this park now, and some paving has been done. There's a walking, riding trail that goes through it that will connect with others from Monteagle and all the way out to Palmer eventually. So just come up and check, see what we have. We hope this will be done maybe even next summer, but just check with us all the time. See what we have, bring family, bring visitors. We would love to have more people that would like to work here like I do right now. I just go through things, I try to learn the history, and I talk about it with people. It's a great way to meet people and have fun. This is a model of the old Shook School that stood right across the street over here. It was made in the 1880s and stood until the 1970s when it was burned in arson. And a lot of people went to grammar school here and still talk about it, still remember it. It was a remarkable place, and it was very sad to lose it. Jack Baggenstoss made this model. I think it took him a couple of years to actually make it, but you get a real idea of what it looked like. This is one of the numerals that was on the clock tower, and we recently, in the last few weeks, got the bell that was hanging in the bell tower when it burned. And it was Mr. Shook that built the school. One of his two of his great-granddaughters donated that. It's a cast iron bell about this big. And so we hope to hang that if we can get it from the rafters somehow in here. But this is very important to a lot of people in Tracy City. And we want the people in Tracy City to realize, well, not just Tracy City, the entire county, the whole plateau up here, the valleys, the coves, everywhere, that they have an amazing history. It goes back to the beginning of the country. It goes back before that. The people that were here, we haven't even mentioned the Highlander School that was one of the premier starting places for civil rights training. The things that have happened up here are remarkable. And just like me, a lot of people aren't aware of them until you get into this, and it really makes you proud to be from here when you do. Now, this is all a volunteer service. Everything here, Oliver Jervis is our president, and everything here has been made by fundraising, by grants. All the people work on a volunteer basis. We appreciate any type of donation, and we sell some books about the history and things like that, and those are very interesting. We're working one right now. It's going to be a picture book. And if anyone has any pictures that were made in this area anytime, as far back or as new as possible, we're accepting those, and we'll put into this book. And then the book will be for sale. So if you're interested in that, just give us a call. We'll give you the details about that.
What's that number, Miss Cindy?
592-6008. This room was actually a bank building built in 1804. I'm sorry, 1904, not that old, in 1904. And the ceilings, these, I don't believe were the original, but this is what it would have been like. The pressed tin, the nice pine floors. And people would come in, do their business. The offices were in back where now we have the library. And we even have the original vault was left in place. So this is 1904, what a vault looked like. It even had a timer, so if you set it for 9 o'clock, no matter if you robbed it or what, you couldn't get into it before that. This is all original. There are little stamps over here where they would come in and check it and say it was okay. What I love is they even etched or carved, decorated the inside of the bank door. That's very Victorian, they would do that. And then the vault itself is here. And this is where they would have had the money in there. So that's sort of cool. So this is 1904. The door weighs a ton, and it just opens as easily. Nothing's ever been done to it. The whole thing, it just still works perfectly. And we just use it for storage, for old papers and books and things. The rest of the building, where the museum and such, that was built in the 1970s. This was all a Tri-County bank, and Tri-County is next to us now, the operating bank. And we use this room for meetings. People, if they have meetings they want to schedule, they can use this room at no charge. Different groups meet here. We have different little displays coming through at odd times, you know, to have on hand.